Hello there, one and all, and welcome to episode 296 of Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, coming to you live from YouTube, as always. And you can probably tell from the layout and obviously from the title of the video that we're doing another interview today. We have got somebody who's never been on this channel before, but I think you are going to be in for an interesting chat over the course of the next hour because we have a brand founder who is coming to us all the way from Barcelona. He is the founder and creative director of this brand that you can see here called Wilgermain, but he comes to this brand after having had several years of experience in a few other brands that you will have heard of, such as Ramon Monegal and Kana and Eitan Bob, but he's also come at perfumery from a very interesting kind of educational background, if I can put it that way. We will be talking about his brand a great deal, I'm sure, because one thing that makes it notable, as a lot of you will be aware, is that all of its fragrances so far have been made by a friend of this channel, the one and only Rodrigo Flores-Roux. So I'm sure we'll be talking about Rodrigo as well. But for now, a huge welcome to the studio to Francisco Gratacos, coming to us straight from Barcelona. How are you doing? You're not feeling 100% today, are you?
Because of a flu, but don't worry, I'm gonna be my best version for you. Don't worry. So pleased to be here with you and with all your audience. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so happy.
Not at all. You look absolutely fine. So we don't believe you. We think you're probably okay. Already a few comments coming in. I know that some of you will have tried Wilgermain's perfumes. Some of you will be wanting to ask Francisco lots of questions. If you could just hang on to your questions for the moment, and then I will tell you at a certain point when it's okay to fire them away. I know lots and lots will be coming. But just to kind of ease us into the conversation, Francisco, before we talk about the brand and everything, you are a proud Catalan, you are a proud resident of Barcelona. What is the smell of Barcelona?
Wow, what a question that is to start the conversation and the interview. I don't know what to say exactly. Barcelona smells very Mediterranean, because of the culture, because of the past, because of the history of Spain for the last centuries. Barcelona is a place very rich in terms of the mixture of different cultures. So I think that Barcelona really has different kind of smells depending on the way that you approach the history of the point of Barcelona. Barcelona has a modern side, for example. It would be something, I don't know, like bergamot, lemon, something aquatic,
Okay.
something watery, but has also a very rich culture in terms of architecture, in terms of design, in terms of art. So that the smell would be more like a painting, would be more maybe a wood, a mass, something more deeper, more with a lower frequency. And maybe in the middle of those edges, you find someone more cosmopolitan. Is much more young, much more cosmopolitan, as I'm telling you that Madrid, for example, Madrid would be much more cultured, much more oldie, much more old money, to say in a nutshell. And Barcelona would be much more technological, much more modern. So in terms of modernity, the smell of Barcelona will be something much technological advanced, like a new fragrance of Rodrigo, molecule, distillation of something. I don't know. Please try
You've given us a whole like Barcelona perfume now with like top, middle, and base notes. You've done all of the work. That's amazing. That's fantastic.
So, altogether, will be a very niche fragrance. In fact,
yeah. So let me ask you a question which you will definitely be able to answer very, very easily, because I think it's one of the first questions that people think of when they are presented, when they're confronted with your brand. What does Wilgermain mean?
Excuse me. Wilgermain is a word that is composed by Will of Williamsburg, the neighborhood, the New Manhattan, the neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, US, and Germain from Saint-Germain. I was living 1 year in Paris when I was young because of the studies. Then I was, many years later, I was living 1 year in New York for my professional career. So both when I was in Paris and when I was in New York, I was very, very impacted by two totally different cultures. The way of they feel everything, the way to understand the life, the lifestyle, very different. The way that they both understand luxury, the way that they understand how they understand even the perfumery, the more classical and traditional French perfumery school, and the most modern, the most technological, the most vanguardist new school of perfumery from the US. So when creating this my very own brand, I didn't want to put my name or something very personal, because I don't need to be the star of anything. I don't need to be the center of the attention. So instead of putting my own name or something about playing with my name or surname or something about me, I did prefer to do someone that I would have loved to do for many years, that it was something mixing those different worlds that I like that much. The most refined side of the French culture, so savoir-faire, and the most modern, the most cosmopolitan, the most industrial way of doing everything in the US.
Did you choose the name? Did you make up the word? Yeah.
So when I started to thinking of a name, I started thinking of many things, many words, many concepts, many a word that was more or less that had more or less an understandable pronunciation in all cultures, in all languages. So I start, because of I have a very close friend of mine that is a very well-known designer, and he used to, for his jobs, professional jobs, he's very familiar on playing with the contraction of different words and create a new word that is, So he gave me Luis, my great friend Luis Blanc. He gave me that idea of just two concepts, two words, two blah, 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 mix and turn it into a word. And I start thinking of my experience, my memories in Paris, my memories in New York, and one day suddenly playing with different concepts and words. I started with Wilgermain, and the final shape was Wilgermain.
And it happened. Yeah, and it's unique. So thank you for that. Now let's go back a little bit. So you studied psychology according to your biography. So there was nothing to do with perfume in your studies, and also I think nothing to do with business in your studies. There is no perfume in your family, but there is maybe a kind of business element in your family. But one day, am I right in saying you met Ramon Monegal? So tell us about your entry into the perfume world.
The entry my entry in the perfume world was very. It was just a very wonderful coincidence in time and in the place, and you know that around 10, 11, 12 years ago, we in Europe and especially in Spain, we experienced a huge good moment in terms of economics. It was a very good moment for everything, for banks, for real estate, for everything. So I studied, in fact, psychology. I've been always very interested in all about the human being, and especially about the psychology and everything behind our complicated brain. So I started, instead of doing medicine and then to study psychiatry, I did prefer to take this study in a more philosophical way. So this is the great difference between psychiatry and philosophy. No? One is coming from the medicine, and the other one is coming from philosophy. I've always loved philosophy, and I love study, I love reading, I love culture, art, design, blah blah blah. So I studied psychology. Then I joined my family business, real estate related. So because of that, 10 years ago, that moment of very good economy in Spain, in Europe, and especially in Spain, for that moment I was working in a very well-known Spanish company, real estate related. So in those moments, most of the wealthy people in Spain, apart from different investments, they were also investing in real estate. So one day One day I met in that company, Porcelanosa, very well known Porcelanosa.
Well, you see that name all over Spain, don't you? That brand is a huge brand in Spain, isn't it? So yeah, so one day.
Wow, it's a huge, all over the world. This is a very huge company. So, and one day I was a key manager in Porcelanosa, and one day I met the Monegal family because they were renewing one of their houses, very luxurious house. I got in touch with them, and I get on well with Ramon, his wife, his children, and we started a relationship about real estate. We become friends for almost 2 years, and one day Ramon Monegal called me. You know that Monegal family they were the owners of Mirurgia. Mirurgia was for many years one of the top Spanish beauty groups until in 2000 was acquired by Puig Group. So the Monegal family, the elder brother of Ramon, sell it all to Puig, and the CEO of Puig, Marc Puig, the current president and CEO, asked Ramon to join the new group and work with them. So he agreed. He was working in the new Mirurgia Puig group for around 4 or 5 years, and after that time, Ramon Monegal said, "Stop! I don't have the need to keep on working for this group, and I would like to become free. I would like to do what my father didn't allow me to do, what my brother did never allow me to do, and what Puig never allowed me to do. That is create my very own brand, Ramon Monegal brand, very luxury with carte blanche in terms of cost and everything." So one day I was in Porcelanosa, and Ramon called me, "Francisco, I would like to have lunch with you." Okay, we got lunch together. And he surprised me a lot when he told me, "Francisco, if everything was well in around this was around summer, June, July. If everything goes well, Francisco, this coming December, I will be leaving the group, and I would like to create finally my very own brand. I know a lot about doing fragrances, but I know nothing about business, brand marketing, and everything. Would you like to join me and create this together?" Wow. For me, it was something quite challenging because I've always been in love with fragrances and been a consumer.
Okay, so you loved fragrances and you wore fragrances. That was there.
Boof.
Okay.
And I've been all my life totally unisex. I've been using personally Narciso Rodriguez for hair for many years. My mom uses Paco Rabanne for men for many years. So in our house, in our family, we've never felt the fragrances as for men or for women. You know, the creation of the industry. We've always felt. Even me, my father passed away many years ago. He was also using fragrances from my mom, so we were all together in taking into account that a fragrance is something totally unisex. So when Ramon asked me for this, it was quite challenging because I had any kind of experience, nothing in the fragrance business. But I said yes because it was something very beautiful. Ramon Monegal is someone extremely special. Ramon Monegal is one of a kind. It's really one of a kind. He's an impressively creative guy in everything that he does, not only fragrances, everything is created by him, and he seduced me. So at that moment, I knew nothing about fragrances, but he already showed me some fragrances that he had developed for 1 or 2 years ago. And I said, "Ramon, I don't understand about fragrances, but all of these fragrances, woof, I'm in love with this. It will be my pleasure, my honor, my everything to join you." So we start a relationship, and we created Monegal from absolute scratch.
Well, and so then there was lots of experience there. Then, according to your bio, you were the CEO of Carner and 8 and Bob, and so the years passed. So what was the moment, or what was the reason, what was the thing that happened that made you think that the next step for you was to make your own brand?
So I will give you the official version.
No. We want the truth. No. We want the truth.
You want the truth. So the truth is, I was with Monegal family around for 4 years. 4 years. I decided that one day I would be having my very own brand. I think that around 5 or 6 months when I joined the family. I didn't have experience in that field, but I discovered an impressively nice world in everything. You know that having a perfume brand is a lot of things altogether, because you can take the business from the more creative point of view, from the fragrances. You can take the business from the numbers. You can take the business from the purchases. You can take the business from the supply chain. You can take the business for the brand ambassador side of the business. So it's very, 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 very complete. So when I joined Monegal, very quickly I saw that my future. I've never feel very comfortable working for a third party, because I'm very special, you know. All of us are special, but I'm special in terms of I take a lot of care of the personal relationship. I have a particular way of doing the things, and I'm very professional. And when talking about business, I always talk about company, brand, and product. The product could be very nice, very blah blah blah. The brand could be more or less appealing, more or less interesting, and the company could be more well managed or not. And when you're talking about niche fragrances, something that is very frequent is that you find something very creative, a product very nice, a brand with potential, but many times you find that the company, the enterprise, the company side is not well managed. You find a lot of family companies in which everything is very nice in terms of the fragrance, in terms of the concept, of the vision, of everything, but in terms of the B2B relationship, the relation with your distributors, with the retailer, is not good, because many companies has now a professional management.
So are you saying that? So you're saying that you had like a vision where you wanted all of these three elements to be done in a particular way, in a kind of strong way.
I've always understand that when you create a perfume, in this case a perfume brand, you have two very great options. Or you're very wealthy and don't care about anything, or if you're not that wealthy and want to do something very good, at least in my opinion, you have to be very strong, or very at least professional, not strong, no, a professional, serious when it comes to the company, because 90-something% of the business will come from the distributors and the retailers, unless you are very wealthy and you start creating your very own stores. Otherwise, you, at least for some years, you will be working with distributors, you will be working with retailers. So you have to be very serious in this relationship, because when you start a company, for the first 4, 5, 6 years, everything, the most important will be that relationship. Your distributors, if they are good, will not only be a logistical distributor of products, they will be you in every single market. They will be totally brand builders of you in every market. So they're expensive and they have their own reputation with their retailers. So you have to be very serious on the business side. You have to have an appealing brand concept that is understandable for all the cultures in the world if you want to do an international distributor brand. And you have to do, in that case, fragrances that are appealing both for millennial, both for expert in fragrances, both we started with only 6 fragrances. With only 6 fragrances, Rodrigo and I tried to be as global as possible. So I've always had very clear, very in mind that one day I would be doing something very market focused, in terms of I will be as serious as possible in my B2B relationship. I will try to do very market, not commercial and easy, but very understandable brand concept, not very polarized, love it or hate it, not. And the same goes to the fragrances. I've always had clear that I would like to do fragrances that are more or less, of course, we have specializations, but more or less understandable for all cultures.
Right. So, and I remember that's what you actually said when we met a few months ago in London. Well, there are so many things actually that I want to ask you about. Just in terms of what you said in the last 5 minutes, there are so many questions I could ask you. But we must make time to smell some things. Now, I've got samples of all 6 of your perfumes here, but I want to. I'm very fascinated by your creative relationship, by your professional relationship with Rodrigo. And I would be really interested in you telling us how the creative process with Rodrigo works. So do you think there is one of your perfumes in particular which shows that relationship with Rodrigo really well? And then maybe we can smell it and then you can talk to us about it at the same time.
One of the perfumes perfectly showing the kind of way that we create a fragrance could be, for example, Possession.
Okay, Possession. So I've got my little vial of Possession here. I'll spray it as you're talking. So tell us why you went with this one. Why does this show the Francisco Rodrigo relationship?
Because first of all, Possession comes from when Rodrigo creates a fragrance. He creates different options according to my briefing, and they, from him, in a very natural way, a natural name comes up to his mind. So we started working on that fragrance. For the fragrance, my briefing for all the fragrances with Rodrigo, I want to respect the creativity of Rodrigo. My briefings have always been very open. For every fragrance, I only told him, Possession, for Rodrigo, I would like, within our first 6 fragrances, I would like to have a cypress structure, but with very long lasting on the skin.
See, it's interesting you say that, because a few minutes ago, you also mentioned Narciso Rodriguez for her.
For example, my briefing was not at all, Rodrigo, I would like to have a kind of Narciso Rodriguez. No, but I told Rodrigo, I know because of some KPAs in the market that Narciso Rodriguez for her is a blockbuster, because many women and also men like that kind of cypress, white floral with mass. It's a quite balanced fragrance, and I would like to have something more or less not in line, but at least something in the same family. This is
sure.
Cypress structure.
And by the way, I should also make it clear, I'm not saying this is a copy of Narciso Rodriguez, but you can see that they have the same soul. They're coming from the same place. Yeah.
It's the same that with amber. Doing an amber that doesn't smell an amber is quite difficult. So I would like for our very first cypress collection, I would like something totally and very clearly a cypress. White floral, pineapple, mask, soft boot. So this is a good example of our relation when create something. Because, for example, the name Possession comes from Te Poseo. As I was telling you, every time that I give a briefing to Rodrigo gets inspired in his background, in his childhood, blah, blah, blah. And then when he gets back to me, Francisco, for your briefing number 1, I have that proposal. That proposal is called Te Poseo. For that fragrance, and because of the structure, and the same happened with Aquaforces, I was totally my briefing was very open, but I had an obsession, the long lasting, the permanence on the skin. For me, you know that for most of people, among other things, quality means permanence. So let's give permanence in all of our fragrances, regardless the family. So I was very, very, very obsessed with this. He made me a first option. Very nice, but not enough. Well, Francisco, it was not something about increasing the percentage. No, the second option was including different things and also concentration. Second option, very nice, but not yet. The second. So if I'm not wrong, we got this fragrance at the 5th or 6th attempt. So
that's not so many, really. That's quite.
For us, yes. The rest of the fragrances, Rodrigo was able to find what I was looking for every briefing, or the first time or the second time. We're doing a very good team because I'm open when giving him the briefing, but when I give him some references, something different like this, I'm quite open. He's very smart. He has a huge experience with all his impressive, and he's able to understand. Ramon always told me that I was not a perfumer, but I was a very good evaluator. So I think that I'm not bad when explain myself what I'm looking with a briefing. Not only white floral, could be million of different things. So possession comes from when I got this fragrance for the final time. Rodrigo told me, "Wow, okay, you like this? Yes, we get it, Francisco. I own you. I possess you. Te tengo." In Spanish is when someone is catching someone is te tengo. I catch you. I own you. Te poseo. So he told me the natural name from me for that fragrance would be te poseo. Okay, so we started.
Sorry, that's a very good impression of Rodrigo. So anyway, carry on.
So te poseo, possession, it was, and look at this. Possession, fortunately for us, is our international, at this moment, our international blockbuster all over the world. So I'm so proud of being, of have been so pushed, so bothered with Rodrigo when developing this fragrance, but because the results demonstrate us that the pressure was worth it.
And also on a different level, different point, it seems absolutely ridiculous and crazy that the name Possession was available. You would have thought that would have been taken like,
No.
30, 40, 50 years ago. That's insane.
It was, but it was a registered name with any kind of continuity. So we were able even to, when I find Possession, okay, I like, the name of the brand is something on my side, but in my line of coherence of respecting Rodrigo as much as possible, I want that he's comfortable with the final name because I want to respect his original name as much as possible. So te poseo, I possess you, te poseo, possession. Okay, do you like possession? Yes, I do. Okay, so give me a couple of days that I got in touch with my intellectual property agency for they make some research. And they told me, Francisco, possession is free. Go ahead. Rodrigo, okay. So we were so happy.
Now, Rodrigo Flores-Roux, as we all know, I mean, we love Rodrigo on this channel. He is a very, very powerful personality. He's a big personality. He's larger than life. How do you control a force like that? Okay.
I don't.
But you have to, right? Because are you not worried? Are you not worried that this will just become like a Rodrigo brand? It has to stay Wilgermain. So how do you manage that?
The most important thing that is in the same way that I respect his creativity, he respects a lot my vision of everything. He respects a lot my final decision on the fragrance, on the concentration, on the final name. He respects a lot my briefing. If I ask him for a spicy wood, he's giving me no. I think that when you ask for a spicy wood, you really mean something, and he tries to conduct. No, he's very serious in that. So I want that Rodrigo is as happy, as free as possible. That with Rodrigo, I've been able to reach the agreement of being able to trip all over the world with them for personal appearances, for training events. So especially thinking of the trainings, from the very beginning, I wanted that Rodrigo, that he were totally free and totally, that for the brand, I wanted to have around, to say something, 50% of marketing, 95% of reality, of truth. So I'm very open when giving a briefing to Rodrigo. Among other things, for him to be totally free when creating something. This is the way that he's very comfortable with me, that he's totally free when creating, and he's very comfortable with the final fragrance. That way, I'm happy with the business side, and he's happy with the fragrance side. That way, when we do a training together, he speaks about a fragrance from his totally real memories. He's not reading something. We don't have any kind of history that we have to learn previously. No. So the way that we work with Rodrigo is I gave him a briefing. I gave him the freedom for his to be as explosive, as expansive, blah 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 that he wants when creating the fragrances. So for me, the most challenging point when controlling Rodrigo is not control his expensivity, but control his budget. Rodrigo, is very well known. In fact, there is one of the fragrances that is called More is More as a tribute to him. He's a sentence that he says a lot. I'm a maximalist. For me, more is more. So he's very expensive. He only wants to work with the most exquisite palette of Givaudan, Absolutes, Concrete, Extract. So when we reached the agreement, the very first thing that I told him, it was, Rodrigo, we have to be very serious when respecting the budget, because I work with them for the Black Collection of Carnival Solana. Those fragrances are impressively everything, impressively original, impressively nice, impressively expensive. I'm talking about the oil. So control Rodrigo, as long as you respect the way that he has, it's quite easy. We get on well a lot. We do a very nice team because we respect the place of the other one a lot. This is the key for me.
Thanks for that. Thanks. And so you also, just now you've been talking about, in a way, the style of the perfumes. And a few minutes ago, you also talked about the fact that you wanted the perfumes to be accessible and understandable. You didn't want something to be too polarizing. But then what do you do to make the perfumes stand out? Do you not worry that if they become too safe and too accessible, that they just kind of fade into the background a little bit? Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying they do, but is that a worry for you?
It was one of the challenges when you try to be appealing for a wide audience. Here is something challenging because you are never able to be appealing for everyone.
So what do you do? How do you?
The point is in this question, for me, the key answer is Rodrigo's experience. So I have my personal experience for many years in the industry. You know that I'm working with around 70 or 80 countries for the last 12 years of my life. So I have a lot of, with all the modesty, I have a good global experience in terms of consumes. But the most important thing for me in this point is the experience of Rodrigo. Rodrigo, he's my friend, he's my exclusive perfumer, but he is above all of this, he's the master perfumer of Givaudan. So he works, for Estée Lauder, for L'Oreal. He has a lot of experience. So I count on him when developing a new fragrance. Every time that I give him a briefing for a new fragrance, Rodrigo, we have to be as balanced as possible. According to your experience, let's do more is more. Let's do a powerful floral fragrance for men, but we have to be appealing for another. So with only 6 fragrances, yes, we have to be as balanced as possible. So I'm not worried about the performance of these 6 fragrances because we already have developed 6 novelties for the next year. And as long as we grow, we will be specializing in themes. Of course, that we will have a very niche, a very special ode. We will have it, but we will have it in 3-4 years from now. So at the beginning, we can be appealing for everyone, and we have to bet on some fragrances. So these 6 fragrances they were, in our opinion, the most balanced, the most understandable fragrances, but not being none of them very polarized, because that from none of my fragrances I didn't want that reaction. So I will be able to allow myself that reaction when smelling a Wilgermain fragrances. some years from now, when we have 20 something or 50 fragrances, we will be able to do very polarizing things. But at the moment, at least for the first 10 or 12 fragrances, I do prefer to be more, instead of say commercial, to be more understandable, than to be niche, you know?
Okay. So I should say, because we've gone over the half-hour mark, I should say to those of you who are tuning in or watching now that you're watching Love at First Scent with me, Persolaise, and in our interview seat today is Francisco Gratacos, the founder of Wilgermain. And if you would like to ask him any questions, start sending them in now, and I'll pick a few to put to him. And if possible, tell us where you are, because it's always nice to find out where people are watching from. Kind of related to what we've just been talking about, Francisco, Rachel, a very loyal viewer of this channel, is saying, so are your fragrances classic fragrances done in a very modern way, which is, she says, what she would expect from Rodrigo. Would you agree with that?
Totally, absolutely, definitely. Yes.
So what makes them modern?
The modern is working with Rodrigo. One of the strengths of working with Rodrigo was precisely this. His knowledge. He was born as a classic perfumer when he was living in Paris at Firmenich, working at Firmenich, and he grew up as a master perfumer in the US. And I think that he's one of the more well-known ambassadors of the modern, at the more technological way of approaching a fragrance today. So, as I was telling you, to be understandable, we tried to do fragrances that were appealing both for millennial, that is looking for something that simply smells good and is nice, and something for someone that is looking for a very nice fragrance, classical accords reinvented, done in a new approach to perfumery. That is why working with Rodrigo is very strong on this, because this point even gives the brand a lot of coherence, both the more classical French perfumery and the most modern. So something very current with this history is doing classical chords in a very new and technological. So all the fragrances from Rodrigo, and especially coming from Givaudan, are very exquisite when it comes to raw materials. They are very modern. They evolve on the skin in a very particular way. And that is why in all our ingredients, if you visit our website and you look to the pyramids, you will see that in many of the ingredients, you will see asterisco. I don't know how to say in English. You will see a point, and that points later a specialty from Givaudan. So this is
Francisco. This is the perfect moment, I think, to talk about Aquaforces. Because am I right that Aquaforces has got a very special kind of citrus material in it? Is that right? Do you want to tell us about that, and then I'll spray that, and you can tell us about Aquaforces.
Aquafortes. It is a fragrance that the same happened with, as I was telling you before, the same happened with two Possession. It was within our sector fragrances. I wanted to have a fresh fragrances. The fresh one, I want to have something like it was a very luxurious Acqua di Parma fragrance, for example. So I told Rodrigo, we need to have something very fresh, something for Japan, something for China, something for those people that are looking for strong fragrances in terms of salience, but not very intense, not very polarized again fragrances. So I want something that is about bergamot, lemon, citronelle, these kind of things, but with a very long lasting on the skin. Oh, Francisco, this is very difficult because of fresh fragrance, because of the structure, because of the volatility of the main ingredients. Even the lemon only smells in nature for some hours. So Rodrigo, here's the challenge. You have to do something on the base with vanilla, with mask, with what you want, but we still have a very fresh fragrance on top that lasts with you altogether. So because of Givaudan, some extract, some absolute, some special, this is something more from Rodrigo. he was able to, in 3-4 different options, to find that fragrance. I was also very, very demanding with the fragrance. That fragrance and possession, they are concentrated at 21%. But this is not only the key of the salience, especially the ingredients and the mask and the vanilla on base that are not highlighting a lot in the way that you smell for the whole day something fresh in terms of lemon, bergamot, this kind of effect. So it was something very challenging, and we're so proud of it, because he, even in the past winter, he was very bestseller, a bestseller.
I don't know if you know, but I mean, I'm sure it's hot in Barcelona, but it's an extremely hot day in England today, and this is the kind of perfume where you think, oh, this is what I want to be wearing. Now, we've got a question from Kristen, and thank you very much for the question, because it's actually one that I wanted to ask, and we got a little bit sidetracked. She's asking you a design question. Is there a story behind the bottle? Because the nut and bolt top is interesting. Now, I know there is a story, but maybe you could tell us about the design elements of this. The striking cap, especially. The cap is very, very memorable.
Thank you. Yes, the cap is a bolt. As a screw is a bolt, because it's a tribute to the bolts that keep together both the Brooklyn Bridge and the Eiffel Tower in Paris. So once again, we wanted to give coherence to that history of mixing those two worlds, those two cultures, having something beyond storytelling, beyond words and a website. So when developing the cap, we started thinking of something that should be a kind of identity for us. We want to have some. So fortunately, another great friend of mine is Luis Blanc. Luis Blanc has been the head designer for the Puig Group for 24 years. Luis at this moment is 50-something. And when I got in contact with him, and I told him about the history, both cities, and that I would like a very solid cap, something that in terms of the material, it would be done it was going to be done in Tamac, wrapped in gold, blah, 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 blah. I gave him around 10 days, and he got back to me with some ideas, some designs. And one of that ideas was Francisco, according to the history of the Eiffel Tower, and that you're thinking of having a metallic and something very solid for the cap. What about a bolt? What about wow? It was very original for me. And once again, the point that the cap is a bolt would be the most American side, the most industrial side. But the point that is a handmade piece, polished one by hand, wrapped in true gold, this would be the most savoir-faire, the most refined side of the brand. This is something, is a bolt, but it's a very carefully treated bolt in a very French. You take a bolt from the US and give the bolt to a French artisan to make something very nice with this bolt. Or let's go polish, let's go in gold, let's blah, 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 and the final result would be the mix of this. Something industrial, but treated in a very artisanal and refined side. This is a history behind the bolt.
That's amazing. What would you say if somebody said to you, don't spend so much money on the cap, put more money in the juice?
All in good time. This would be my all in good time. I will keep on spending that much in the cap, but of course, maybe in the next year that we're launching novelties, we're taking the final decisions of if all the novelties will be following that line and the price positioning, or maybe we will start doing something more exclusive, more concentrated, more niche. What is something sure is that in 3-4 years from now, we will launch a collection of extrait de parfum, very, very niche, very specialized, something very, very, very nice, very nice. So
is it sort of definite that your perfumer is exclusively going to be Rodrigo, or maybe not? I don't know.
You know that after pandemic, after the problem that I had with my former partner, and the problem now with the Russian situation. Maybe one day Rodrigo gets crazy and call me Francisco. I'm no longer being a perfumer. Now I will be a painter. So look for another perfumer. If something like this doesn't happen at this moment, my will is to work with Rodrigo for many years, because even with this brand, we've become much more friends than we were. And the relation with Rodrigo is something very special. It's much more than just a business or just a passion. Okay. We are, even with my wife, even with his husband, everything is very special. And at this moment, I can't imagine to break this.
Fine. Now, this is a question from Jaina, who's saying, which perfumer has inspired you the most? But I'm going to say, apart from Rodrigo.
Yes, I have an answer.
Go on.
Rodrigo. I learned a lot from Ramon Monegal. Not now, but 3-4 years ago, and when I started thinking of this fragrance, and before having cleared the vision of Wilgermain, I was thinking of to do something different, but in line with Frédéric Moll in terms of doing an éditeur de parfum. This is create, for example, a collection of 6 fragrances, but 2 with Rodrigo, 2 with Monegal, for example, and 2 other with some other. But because of different things, I left the idea of working with Ramon, and I thought of working with Rodrigo, with Jérôme Pinet, and with Alberto Morillas. So you know that Alberto Morillas is a perfumer of Firme Niche. I got in touch with Firme Niche, and they told me yes. Jérôme Pinet is a perfumer of Robertet. I got in touch with Robertet Spain, and they told me yes. And because Rodrigo and I were already friends, I was totally sure that he was going to tell me to say yes. He was the very first last that I got in touch. So when I got in touch with him, he offered, Francisco, I would like to be your exclusive, and I agreed. So, and going back to the question, inspiring perfumers for me, Jérôme Pinet, because I think that his works for Atelier Cologne, especially for Byredo, at least in my opinion, they're very good. And Alberto Morillas is still living master perfumer for me, maybe with a more impressive career. Olivier Cresp is also a must in your list. Jean-Claude Delenat. But for something like Wilgermain, I would have loved to work with Alberto Morillas and Jérôme Pinet and Rodrigo.
But Rodrigo won't let you. No.
Rodrigo, I am the best. You know, yes, you are the best. So I'm with the best.
Thanks for that question, by the way. And also, we've got a question from EcoJock who says, "Hi, Francisco. Who is your ideal Wilgermain man?"
Myself.
I have a feeling you're being 100% honest.
Thank you. My Wilgermain man, I don't know. I'm sorry, but instead of say a name, it would be a man of today, with values, a man that is looking for something different, a man that is very respectful, and a man that he thinks at least that he's someone that is able to recognize, to see something good when he's in front of. In Wilgermain fragrances, as you know, I didn't want to create something very niche, something very complicated. Taking the risk, like you said, or like you tried to say, taking the risk of, instead of being very special, being quite normal. But if you explore the fragrances, Wilgermain, for a couple of days, you will see that they are not as normal as they could look in a first sight. Possession, Aquaforces. When you approach the brand, if the first fragrance that you smell is Possession, Well, it's nice, but it's not a very complicated fragrance. Exactly, it's not a very complicated fragrance, but Possession is not a booklet. Possession is a book of a lot of pages. If you give a Possession a try on your skin, you will see that in 2 hours, in 5 hours, in 6 hours from now is something totally different. According to a niche fragrance, changes a lot. So maybe some of our fragrances are not very difficult to understand, but all of them are telling you much more than you could imagine at the first sight. So a Wilgermain man would be someone that is able to see beyond and that is able to read between lines, you know.
Good. We've got time to smell one more. So why don't from the ones that are left, if you had to wear one right now, which one would you choose to wear? And we'll smell that one.
Right now, it would be Possession or Aquaforces, among other things because of the weather. But let's say Unconfessable.
Okay, which is this one here. So tell us a little bit about that one for somebody who's not smelt it before, maybe.
Unconfessable is a spicy wood. It's something very special. Maybe it's the most American fragrance. It's the most.
What does that mean?
The most modern because of the way to approach this fragrance from Rodrigo. I wanted to have, of course, to have a wood within the 6 fragrances, but I didn't want to have, with all the 6 fragrances, an oud, a Kikala, something very, very polarized. So my briefing for that fragrance was, Rodrigo, I want to have a sexy and as unisex as possible wood. Something that is powdery, something that is slightly spicy, but something that is a wood at the end. So the name Unconfessable is because we work in different kind of fragrances for this final fragrances. I was with my wife, Gemma, in New York 3 years ago with Rodrigo, working on the first collection. We thought that we have already closed the first selection. And one of the nights, we got dinner with Rodrigo and his husband, Russell. And as soon as we met at the restaurant, I gave to Rodrigo, wow, what is this, Rodrigo? This is something very special. This is a fragrance that I created for my 50th anniversary. It's only for my husband, my close friends. And I told him, so I'm so sorry to tell you that this fragrance is no longer going to be for your close friends because I love, this is the kind of wood that I wanted when I gave the briefing. So, okay, so Francisco, okay, I agreed to give this fragrance to the first collection of Wilgermain, but I will never confess the cocktail of the spices behind this fragrance. You know that curry is the result of many spices. The same goes with this fragrance. So I will never confess the key notes. Of course, in the website you can read the key notes, but there are more things behind this fragrance that the notes that you can read. So
it's inconfessable, right?
So
Rodrigo's secret.
We start playing with that concept, and we finally got the name Unconfessable. And this is the nicest story behind the fragrances.
That's a good one.
We are also so proud of it.
Francisco, I cannot thank you enough for your time. I would have been thanking you a lot for your time anyway, but especially today, seeing you said that you don't feel 100%, but you seem absolutely fine to me, and I'm sure you seem absolutely fine to everybody else. I know that you said before we started that you're going to be launching in the States in a couple of weeks, so congratulations to you on that, and good luck with all of that. I know that you're already in lots and lots of countries. By the way, for anybody watching in the UK, the brand Wilgermain is exclusive to Harrods at the moment. Let's see where that goes, so you can try them at Harrods. Thank you so much, Francisco. Thank you to everybody for watching. Thanks for all of the questions. And I will leave you with one final one, and you have to answer it very, very quickly without thinking. We have already said, and we know from you, we know from the name of the brand, that New York and Paris are both very, very important to you. But if you could only go back to one, which one would you go to?
What kind of questions are you?
Don't think about it.
I would take a globe map, and I would choose a place in the middle.
See, you're supposed to say you would go to New York because that's where Rodrigo lives.
But he doesn't need any special excuse to trip to Paris. So you know that one of the headquarters of Givaudan are in Paris. So he's in Paris every single day. Maybe I would choosing a Paris, but some place in the middle would be better.
Clever. Someplace in the middle would be good as long as you can swim, I think, if you really can.
For example.
Okay. Thank you very much, Francisco. Thanks very much. And I hope you feel better soon. Thanks very much for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.